Hi, I'm Jim Morris with the Art League of North Florida, and we're talking with Jane Kopp, who is one of our premier artists in the league, and she's going to tell us a little bit about the Young DaVinci Program, which she taught last year and will teach with us again this year. But we want to first ask you a little about how you got into art and a little about yourself and your past.
Okay, again, I'm very pleased to be a member of the Art League, and I've spent my entire life from the time I was in kindergarten, even beyond that, I was always doing art. And fortunately, I was from a family that encouraged me and really wanted me to continue with my art. And I can't imagine a time when I wasn't doing art.
Were either of your parents artists?
My mother is very artistic and was able to paint and draw, and my father was a teacher. I felt very fortunate to have these parents because they really saw the significance of art and the role that artist plays in society.
Now, you're not self-taught. You pursued a formal education.
No, I'm from Upper New York State, and at the time that I was growing up, there was a tremendous amount of money poured into the school systems, and they put a great emphasis on the arts, music, drama, the fine arts, as much as putting a lot of emphasis on science and math and all the other subjects as well. So I always had wonderful art teachers all through elementary school, into middle school, into high school, and then I wanted to go to college and study art, at which time my father said, "Your mother and I'd love to have you study art, but how about being able to make a living and not be a starving artist?" That was the first time I'd ever heard that expression, starving artist. So my father encouraged me to get a 4-year degree in art education. And while I was getting this degree at New York State University College at New Paltz, New York, I also specialized in painting and drawing. And then right out of college, I began teaching middle school, and then I came to Florida, and I ended up teaching art at Newberry High School for 33 years.
For 33 years?
33 years until I retired. But the nice thing about being a teacher is that you also have time off in the summer, and I'd always paint for the local art shows during the summer. So not only did I teach this subject, but I also practiced it as well.
Did you have any students who went on to become important artists regionally or even nationally?
Well, I had several students who took art up and went to the university, and one young lady became an art educator herself. Mm-hmm. My son became an architect, and I'm very proud of that. And I wouldn't say particularly famous artists, as we tend to know famous artists, but students did go on and study art, but also appreciate art. One young man went into the armed services and went to Europe, and he came back and told me how he went and saw the great museums. Mm-hmm. And that really touched me because I see art education not just merely doing art and creating art, but also appreciating art. Mm-hmm. And that's what I try to do as an art educator, to do both. To teach art, the skills that enable people to do art, to encourage them to be creative, but also to appreciate it.
Was the Harn Museum open when you were still teaching?
Yes, it was.
And that was a venue for you to take your students?
Oh, yes. I often would take the students to the Harn Museum, and then also to the Marjorie Kinnan Rawlings home down at Cross Creek, which I thoroughly enjoyed doing to study the old architecture. And out of that experience, many kids would tell me, all of these children that I worked with are from rural Florida, and they would tell me about old barns and old cracker houses down dirt roads and all. And they really began to appreciate what they had lived with day in, day out, you know.
And you paint some of those?
Yes, I do. That's why I'm considered a regional artist.
And you mostly paint in acrylic?
Well, I have painted for a great deal of time in oils, but I discovered that when you paint with acrylics, you can paint inside and also watch TV at the same time. So and also the nice thing about acrylics, they are so perfected that the colors, the pigments and all are very similar to everything that's in oil paint. You really cannot tell a difference, and they're much more expedient to use. But as my son would say, oil painting is classical music. Acrylics is rock and roll.
Rock and roll or jazz.
Yes, right.
Very good. And the university galleries, did you ever take the students there?
Yes, I have. I've taken the kids there as well.
It's mostly work of students and
yes,
professors.
Yes, students. And it's just nice for these kids who really wouldn't have had the opportunity to go to these places. Because, again, art is to create and do art, but it's also to appreciate.
And now they have the Appleton to visit as well.
Oh, yes. There are a lot of different opportunities for young people.
Tell us some more about the Young DaVinci Program, what you did last year and what your plans are for this year.
Okay, one of the things that I did as a high school teacher was primarily to teach painting and drawing. So this past summer, when I was working with the DaVinci Program, we focused on painting. And we started out at our particular workshop spending about 30 minutes just practicing what I call the 5 basic ways of applying paint, the techniques. And then I gave them several suggestions of subject matters that they might like to paint and apply these different painting techniques to. Now, I gave them suggestions, but always in a group of children, there'll be some children who definitely have their own ideas of what they would like to paint, their choice of subject matters. So I encourage that as well.
So you don't stifle that creative urge?
No, I feel it's very important for an art educator to encourage the individual thinking. But you also have to teach it in a way that kids will go away feeling like they have done something. And that's where being able to teach basic skills, the basic techniques. And I have saved a lot of the handouts that I used with my own kids back at Newberry High School, and we practiced on those.
Real quickly, what are the 5 basic ways?
Okay, first of all, there's hard edge. That's when you paint everything in very smooth and very precise. And then there's something, I call it color into color or wet into wet, and that's when you run wet paint into wet paint. That'd be ideal for a sunset or possibly the reflections on water.
How the highwayman painted, wet
Very
on
much,
wet.
yeah, very much so. It's where colors will run together naturally
Right.
and all. And then there's what I consider the impressionist techniques. That's quick, short little dabs of paint, and we talk about the impressionist artists and how this all came about. And then there's more the painterly method. That's somewhat like Vincent van Gogh would paint with long, painterly, thick strokes. And then there's a dry brush method, and that's where you actually dry your brush and you put paint on your brush and just run it over a surface. That's ideal for textures such as wood on an old barn.
Do you ever do action painting with kids?
When you say action painting, what do you mean?
Like just throwing ink and paint onto a canvas, or shooting it with a water pistol, or
yeah, they're different. We've done a lot of different things, such as, you know, splashing paint on and dropping paint on, taking other kinds of implements to apply paint.
like sponges.
Right, sponges, all different kinds of things that we possibly might find around the art room and all. But I basically felt that the kids needed a sense of structure, and this is why I focused more on these 5 basic ways to put down paint. I sort of devised this method myself through trial and error and whatnot, because particularly with the older kids, they're very reluctant. They already have ideas about art, and most of them feel they can't do something. But if you can show them that they can apply paint in a variety of different ways, and then we look at other artists to discern how they would apply the paint, what were their techniques like, because you can always learn a lot from other artists.
Well, now you focused on painting last summer. What will you focus on this summer?
Well, it depends on what you all would like me to focus on. You know, again, I could do drawing, or I tend to do more 2-dimensional work. And the reason I do that is I'm able to do 3-dimensional work and pottery and sculpture, but my own areas of expertise are drawing and painting.
Very good. And we hope that those of you watching will, if you're parents of children in Columbia County or in our surrounding counties and plan to have your kids participate in the Young DaVinci Program, that you'll watch this and get inspired and get in touch with the Art League and have them participate. And I want to thank you for talking with us. This is our first presentation, our first forum that we've tried to record, and we're hoping it comes out very well. And thank you for being a pioneer.
Oh, thank you. I'm always enjoying that. Plus, I could talk about art till the cows come home.
Well,